The 2024 Major League Baseball season is here, and today in this video, I'm going to be predicting the 6 division winners as well as who's going to be making the playoffs this season. Now, originally, I was actually going to be doing this video to predict the entire standings, like who's coming in first, who's coming in last, etc. But I figured just to keep this video short, we're just going to predict the 6 division winners and of course the 6 wildcard teams. So let's get into it. Starting in the AL West, where the Houston Astros reside, not a very busy offseason for the Astros, which shouldn't surprise many people because their roster is mostly intact. But they did lose 3 key pieces from their bullpen. But they did resolve that issue by getting Josh Hader. So we'll see if that signing pays off this season. But yeah, it should be a good one. It should be a very good season this year for the Astros. And this division is proving to be more tough for them as it's been in years past. Because, of course, their in-state rivals, Texas Rangers, just won the World Series last year. And, they may have the most recent World Series ring. The Mariners may have Julio Rodriguez. But the Astros are the class of this division. And I'm still going to be looking at them that way until some team definitively proves otherwise. So I've got them winning this division once again. And also snagging the top seed in the American League. Now, in terms of who's going to be making the playoffs in this division, it might be a tough call, but I think I'm going to give some flowers to the Seattle Mariners as for a possible AL West playoff team. I mean, if you kind of pit this up to the Rangers, I think the Mariners do have a slight edge, and here's why. Their pitching staff is headlined by George Kirby, who's a lurking candidate for AL Cy Young, as well as Luis Castillo. And they may not have any all-star players or all-star position players outside of Julio Rodriguez, but to be honest, they are one move away from becoming a big playoff threat, especially in a short series, one that's best of 5 or even one that's best of 3 for all that matter. But anyway, I've got the Mariners coming in second in the AL West division and snagging the number 2 spot in the AL wildcard race. And notice, I said number 2, not number 1. And who's going to snag number 1, you might ask? Well, keep watching to find out. And yes, guys, before I mention that, I do not have the Rangers making the postseason this year. Bookmark this video, and you'll see, and we'll see if I'm right at the end of the season. Next up is the AL East, and with everybody in this division, with the lone exception of the Red Sox finishing above 500 last season, this division is going to be stacked. And saying that it's stacked is quite the understatement. Like, not gonna lie, it's gonna be a very tough to fight for first place in this division. So, if you look at how Baltimore was last season, they were the only 100-plus win team in the American League last season. And well, can you believe it? They actually ended up getting swept out of the playoffs that year. And part of that was just because their young pitching just proved to be the Rangers' offense proved to be too much for them. So that was kind of the main issue there. And, they didn't have any playoff experience. So the good thing is that they're going to be going into this season all having another year's worth of experience under their belt, plus those 3 playoff games added to their experience line as well. Baltimore should be going in with the same confidence as they were going into last season. And I'm going to give them the favorites to win the division this year. So again, because, if you kind of look at how their roster is, they just have a bunch of rising stars. They've got Adley Rutschman, they've got Gunnar Henderson, and to name a couple of other guys. And of course, baseball's number 1 overall prospect, Jackson Holliday, who, I'm recording this on the 23rd of March. So that was 5 days ago when you guys are seeing this, but you guys are not seeing it until the following Thursday. So I would be a bit shocked if he does not make the opening day roster. Obviously, by the time you guys see this, we'll find out. We're going to find out. But I'm going to give first place to the Baltimore Orioles this season. Best case scenario for them is that their youngsters are able to build off of what they had learned last year, all the experience they got, and they're able, and it's more of a repeat season for them. Worst case, well, maybe their run was more of a fluke, but I don't see that happening. I've got them snagging the top spot in the AL East and the number 2 seed in the American League behind the Astros. Now, in terms of who's going to come in second, I know a lot of Astros fans are going to be rolling their eyes at me down in the comments for this, but I'm going to have the Yankees coming in second this season. Now, sure, the Yankees were definitely a mess last year, and the Astros swept them in the ALCS the year before. But with the additions they made this offseason with Juan Soto, Garrett Cole is hurt, and he won Cy Young last year. And he is going to be out for the first 2 months of the season, but I don't think that's going to stop the Yankees. But again, I know a lot of Astros fans are going to be lighting me up down in the comments saying, why do you have the Yankees coming in second of all things? Well, let's be honest here. the Yankees, they are a team with championship aspirations. And I mean, I do have to be realistic here. Juan Soto is definitely going to be a heavy favorite for AL MVP. Of course, the additions of Alex Verdugo, Trent Grisham, I mean, that should alleviate the depth concerns that plagued the Yankees last season. Now, of course, best case scenario for them is that Garrett Cole comes back healthy, and well, the Yankees become a threat in the AL playoffs. But honestly, I certainly do look at it that way. I mean, at this point, I would be shocked if the Yankees didn't even crack 90 wins this season. So I'm going to give them second place and snag the top AL wildcard spot. Next up, the Toronto Blue Jays. So the Toronto Blue Jays, I'm going to have them coming in as the third AL wildcard team, and here's why. It certainly felt like it was going to be the Blue Jays' moment for a couple years, but that sadly has yet to be the case. Like, they don't have an ALCS appearance since 2016, and they've only had 3 playoff appearances over the last 4 seasons, 2 of which were, of course, appearances in the Wild Card Series, the newly revamped one, that is. But despite that, they were swept at all three of those playoff rounds in those last 3 appearances that they were in the playoffs. So technically, they don't even have a playoff win or even a playoff series win since 2016. Now, I mean, this Blue Jays team is very capable on going on a run like that, because, I mean, they've got a lot of young talent, because they've got a couple of young guys trying to put their pieces together. And, of course, George Springer, Kevin Kiermaier, really the only 2 old guys on this roster. So, you know, young guys will look up to them. But again, the Blue Jays are still capable of going on a good October run. And I think that's what's going to happen this year. They're going to be able to sneak in once again as the last AL wildcard team. So last up, in the American League, we have the very underachieving American League Central. So picking a favorite in this division, it's honestly going to be kind of tough. And I mean, if you kind of look at what the teams in the AL Central did did this offseason, this is kind of going to be one of those divisions that's like up for grabs for anybody. Even a team like the White Sox, who I don't have making much noise this season. But my favorite this year in this division is going to be the Minnesota Twins. I mean, the Twins, of course, won it last year before they got dispatched by the Astros in the division series. And after that series, they did lose 2 of their best starting pitchers in free agency. They lost Sonny Gray to the St. Louis Cardinals and also Kenta Maeda to the Detroit Tigers. And ever since then, they haven't made a lot of additions, if any, to the roster. But I think that's okay, because I mean, again, given how the AL Central is, you don't really need to do much to win the division. You just kind of got to take advantage of the weak division, and you know, I mean, obviously you need to have some talent, of course, in order to do that. But regardless, though, I mean, this division, it's the Twins' division to win. So I'm going to give them first place in this division and snag the 3 seed in the AL. So that's going to be it for the American League. That's going as far as the 6 playoff teams, we have the Orioles, Astros, and Twins as the 3 division winners, seeded in that order. And then the New York Yankees, Seattle Mariners, and the Toronto Blue Jays will be my 3 AL wildcard picks. Let's jump to the National League. So first up in the National League East, we're going to, actually, no, we're not going to do the East just yet. We're going to go to the West first, where we're going to look at the LA Dodgers. Very, very busy offseason, and a rather historic offseason for the LA Dodgers. I don't see them messing this up this year in the regular season in the NL West. I've got them coasting to a division victory this year. Like, I mean, they got pretty much like all of the best players in the free agent market. Like, they've got Tyler Glasnow, Yamamoto, Teoscar Hernandez, and did I even mention 2-time MVP Shohei Ohtani? I don't think I did. And the last time, the best player that they lost off of last year's roster was JD Martinez, and well, he's going to get replaced by Shohei. So, without saying too much, I'm going to have the Dodgers snagging the top spot in the National League West, and also home field advantage in the World Series. But that's assuming, of course, that they make it, because honestly, dude, ever since, like, the Dodgers have had back-to-back first-round exits, they don't even have an NLCS appearance since 2021, and that still feels like it was an eternity ago. So, I mean, honestly, dude, even if I could say home field advantage in the World Series for the Dodgers, I can't really take them seriously, so. But again, we'll see how the season breaks out. So next up, the San Diego Padres. So the San Diego Padres, well, they did lose quite a couple of guys. They lost Juan Soto to the Yankees. They lost Blake Snell to the San Francisco Giants. But despite losing those 2 key guys, you don't want to count the Padres. You don't want to be counting the Padres out of this division. So And there are two reasons not to. The first one, it's rather obvious. They still have a lot of talent on this roster because they've got Manny Machado, they've got Fernando Tatis, they've got Xander Bogaerts in a rotation that's backed by Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish and Hae-Sung Kim. So that's the first reason. And the second one, it's just simple luck, which was something that the Padres really didn't have last year. We all spent the entire season waiting for them to kick it in a gear, but it just did not happen. Like, so many things last year just did not go their way. Like, they were 9-23 in games decided by 1 run, and they were 2-12 in extra inning games, or as I'm now going to call it, main Fred inning games. So get used to that. And if you want to know why, then it's rather controversial. So, but despite that, they still finished above 500 in the NL West. So yeah, while there is no way in hell that they are catching the Dodgers, I'm still gonna give them second place in the National League West and also give them the top wild card spot in the National League. Anyway, next up, we've got the National League East. So the Atlanta Braves are going to be my pick to win this division once again. Like, their core is still in place, and they didn't make very many changes this offseason, but rather they just made tweaks, and you could kind of tell how confident the Braves are on their ability to still reach the postseason this year. And the transactions that they did this offseason are kind of the ones that, it won't make a huge difference over the course of a 162-game season, but it could be the difference between a playoff run that results in a run all the way to the World Series versus one that ends in an early exit in the division series, which, as we all know, has been the case for Atlanta for these past 2 seasons to the Phillies. And Chris Sale was a guy who they also got from the Red Sox, I think, either this past offseason or the offseason ago. He spent last year hurt, so he should be coming back strong this season, and while he certainly isn't going to pitch 200 innings this season, but honestly, you can't really count him on doing that in the regular season. But can you count on him to pitch in a playoff game with your season on the line? Absolutely. While there is expected to be more competition in this division this season, with the Phillies being motivated after losing to the D-backs, the Mets are expected to have a much better year than last year. Like, there is a good reason why everybody was chasing the Braves a year ago. So next up, the Philadelphia Phillies. Like I said a minute ago, the Phillies are going to be going in more motivated after being beat in the NLCS by the Diamondbacks, and of course also with the Astros beating them in the World Series the year before that. But I don't know if they're going to have enough in them this season to dethrone the Braves per se, and of course they have owned them in the playoffs. And do I still expect that to be the case this year? Maybe not, but we'll see what happens. But I would still expect another good season for the Phillies, because they did spend some money this offseason. They extended some of their guys. But I think they're going to walk away with the second National League wildcard spot. Last but not least, that's just going to leave us with the National League Central. And very much like the American League Central, this is going to be a division that's going to be up for grabs, but I think my pick in the National League Central this season is going to be going to the Chicago Cubs. Now, I have family up in the Midwest who follow the Cubs, and I'll always strive for them to play well. And I think they should have a much better season, especially when they had so much of a collapse at the end of last season that caused them to miss the playoffs. Of course, the big thing that the Cubs did was that they got former Brewers manager Craig Counsell, they got Shota Ememanga, who they signed to a 4-year deal, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. But they signed this Japanese lefty to bolster their starting rotation, and behind that group is a list of younger arms that just keeps growing. And to top that off, they've got a lot of young prospects just waiting in the wings, waiting to be called up. So after they had failed to sneak into the playoffs as the 6th seed in the National League, I'm going to have the Cubs winning the National League Central this year. So I cannot wait to see that happen. Like, I want it to happen this season. Next up, for who's going to be snagging it, the wild card spot, I think that's going to go to the Milwaukee Brewers. So, like I said, this division is going to prove to be up for grabs. Again, the Cubs are for sure going to be winning it, but most of the Brewers roster is intact. Like, Corbin Burns is still there, Devin Williams is still there, Christian Yelich, he's still there. But also down in the minor leagues awaits MLB's number 2 overall prospect, Jackson Koury or something like that. And it should be fun, assuming that both of those 2 prospects, and both Jackson Holiday of the Baltimore Orioles and this guy for the Milwaukee Brewers, if they make their respective teams' opening day roster. Like, I want to see them face off against each other this season. But yeah, it should be a very fun season this year, so I'm going to have them snagging it the 3rd and final wildcard spot. Should be a very fun season this year. The Cardinals, I would expect them to have a much better season after the mess that they were last year. The Cincinnati Reds, like, there is no other team in this division that is oozing with young talent than they are. And then the Pirates, I mean, obviously, they're still putting some of their young pieces together. Like, this NL Central division is going to be one that I think that's going to be amazing to watch this season. Anyway, guys, there you have it. Those are my predictions for the division winners and the wild card teams. We have the Atlanta Braves, the LA Dodgers is the 1 seed, the Atlanta Braves as the 2 seed, and the Chicago Cubs as the 3 seed for the division winners. And then we have the San Diego Padres, Philadelphia Phillies, and Milwaukee Brewers. Those are my 6 picks for the National League playoff teams, all seeded in that order. Let me know what y'all's predictions are for who's going to be winning in each division, who's making the playoffs, and then bookmark this video, because at the very end of the season, when the playoffs come around, we're going to go back to this video and see which predictions I got correct. So it should be a fun season this season, guys. And kudos to you guys if you made it all the way to the end of this video. So that's going to do it. And I'm excited to bring you guys more Astros content, news around the league, and all that stuff, like game recaps, live fan reaction videos, which I promise you guys that I will be pushing more Astros content, especially live fan reaction videos, because I haven't posted many of those. I only posted one the entire spring, so I'm sorry for that. But don't you worry, I will be posting several over the course of the season. We're going to start with maybe once a week, and I may push it to twice a week as the season goes on, depending on how much you guys like them. But obviously, we're not going to do one for every single video, just because, you know, it's kind of a big time commitment and all that. But I promise you guys that starting this weekend, you guys will see a fan reaction video for Friday night's game against the Yankees, which is tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that video. Between now and the next time, I will see you guys then. Peace out.